The world is changing. I can smell it in the air. I can feel it in the earth. I can see it in the stars. Much that once was has been lost, for few now live who remember it. It began with the forging of the great starships. 3 to the pirate lords, wisest and fairest of all beings. 7 for the Milsim fanatics to defend the universe. And the rest for the Care Bears, who above all else desire PvE servers. But they were all deceived. He also forged another game. Into it he poured his time, his passion, his effort, and Mark Hamill. Month after month, year after year, the persistent universe and all its backers would have to be content with the hand-me-downs of Squadron 42. But there were some who resisted. So, tell me honestly, bit too dramatic of an intro? That was a lot of fun to make. I mean, I'm going to get copyright strike to hell, but it was worth it. I had a lot of fun making that. But, you know, lately I've been shown a few Star Citizen videos, not those made by myself, but those made by others. You know, people who are, to say the least, displeased with certain things, whether it's ship sales, communications, things like that, yada, yada, yada. Which, you know, if you're already watching my channel, if you're already seeing this video, then, you know, we've discussed these things at length. And as always, there are some good suggestions from the community. But honestly, like, first things first, you got to remember where we are in the year. We are at that part of the year where normally I refer to this as we're walking through the desert right now. This is prior to the usual CitizenCon hoopla. CIG is hiding a lot of things. They're going to show us a whole bunch of stuff, and people are going to go like, ooh, ah, and they're gonna chill out a little bit. But another thing that generally happens around that is that we also get, you know, FaceTime with guys like Brian Chambers, Tony Zurovec, Todd Pappy. And when these guys step in front of the camera and they start answering community questions, my take on that is, and I'm sure that there's a lot of other people who kind of feel the same way, is that, okay, you know what? I'm not happy about where we are. I'm not happy about how long things are taking, but I just got like a good explanation as to what's going on, what the future holds, what the idea is behind it. And, you know, everyone wants Star Citizen tomorrow. If we could just snap our fingers and like, bam, there it is, we'd be so happy. But we know that that's not reality, right? So it's listening to guys like that really does a lot to calm the community down and kind of, you know, let us know what CIG is thinking and what CIG is working on. When you watch shows like Calling All Devs and things like that, the last thing that players really need is a video that tells you like, oh, today we're going to design a space whale. You know, today we're going to design an armor outfit. That stuff's interesting, but that's kind of like Tuesday content. That's kind of like, you know, Wednesday content. That's not Friday content. Like, end of the week, we want to, you know, we've got some questions and we want answers to those questions. And there's a lot of like really burning questions in the community that just go unanswered week after week after week. And that's not a great thing, you know, and that's one of the things that kind of raises the level of angst in the community. And so honestly, CIG needs they keep talking about, oh, we're up to 600 employees now and stuff like that. What CIG needs is somebody up at the Todd Pappy end, the Brian Chambers end, the Tony Zurovec level, but someone who is there, who has their hands in that stuff, who is talking about that stuff, but whose main responsibility is then to communicate that to the community. So that when we get to the Friday content, when we get to calling all devs and things like that, we can have some real substantial questions answered, and it's not like, okay, well, it's the art team, so you can't ask them about iCache or server meshing or how things are progressing or things like that. Back in the day, we used to have this show called Reverse the Verse, and I think that was a really good show. It was very disorganized. It was, very new, I'm sure, for the people doing it as well as the people watching it. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't polished. A few F-bombs and S-bombs, slipped through here and there, which was always an entertaining moment. But more often than not, you would get guys like Travis Day and, other producers who would come and sit in on the show and who would directly answer questions. We also used to get this thing called 10 for the Chairman, where players could fire, upvoted questions to Chris Roberts and they would try to answer them, or producers would try to answer them sometimes. 10 for the producers. And so it did a lot to kind of reassure people. It did a lot to kind of tell people what is going on. Now, as the years have gone by, things have become a lot more difficult, and I feel that in a weird way, CIG is kind of feeling this time pinch, and they're deciding that's like, oh God, I don't really want to answer that question because I'm afraid that it's going to be taken poorly. But I think that if someone came to me and they said, we're taking salvage off the production timeline, it's gone for now, and they just didn't say anything, I'm obviously going to make a whole bunch of videos about that, and I am not going to be, mad about it. But when CIG then comes out with a video and says, hey, by the way, here's all the things that we need to do to get salvage in the game, then I'm like, oh, okay, I understand the problem now. I realize that game development is not an instantaneous thing. You just can't say, Todd Pappy makes salvage, and he's just like, oh yeah, I forgot. Here, click, done. We understand that. And so, like, when you get a video like that, you go, oh, okay, all right, I understand now. I've spoken to people from I've watched people from multiple disciplines explain all the different hurdles that they have to get over. All right, I'm cool. I understand it now. It's better than nothing at all. But honestly, in a weird way, I think that, obviously Squadron 42 creates a unique set of challenges, we'll say, for CIG, kind of building two games at the same time. And yes, there is cross-pollination, and I think that that's kind of why a lot of the community tolerates Squadron 42. And yes, I am saying tolerates because, there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'll play it. But for the most part, people aren't buying ships to play them in Squadron 42. They're buying ships to use them in Star Citizen. Squadron 42 is just the lucky bonus. And I think that if you really came down to it and you said to the community, if you had to take one and lose the other, if you had to make that kind of Sophie's choice, most players would be like, well, keep Star Citizen. Oh well. Because everyone wants to fly their Idris. Everyone wants to fly their Reclaimer, their Corsair, their whatever. But the single player game, if CIG said, you know what, we're just going to backburner this and we're going to chip away at it in the background, but we're going to throw everything into the PU, some players would be disappointed, but I think the overwhelming majority would be like, I'm fine with that. That's cool. That's great. Good. Because Squadron 42, I think it just it doesn't really do anything for community angst because there's a whole bunch of work that goes on there and that we really just never get to see. It's very rare and very short snippets that we get to see of Squadron 42 without a lot of explanation and without a lot of information. It's just like, look at this new space station we're designing and all this stuff. And I think a lot of people like myself, we look at it and go, okay, well, once that thing makes it into the persistent universe, that's going to be cool. So we're like, oh, okay. But in general, I think that if we were forced to make the choice, we would obviously choose Star Citizen over Squadron 42. But, getting back to the communication thing, it's like CIG needs to kind of prioritize the types of shows where it is somebody at the top end who's coming and talking to us. And if there needs to be somebody at the organization who is hired, who is put into the top end with an idea, yeah, they're gonna help with those higher end choices, but their primary responsibility is still going to be to communicate that to the community in a way that they can understand, oh, this is why this choice was made, this is why this is delayed, this is why we're struggling over here, but these are the avenues that we're pursuing, and this is how we plan to, beat the problem. I think a lot of players would be like, okay, all right, that's a lot better. Now, recently, CIG has told us that we're going to be getting a new roadmap, and they gave us a roadmap for the roadmap. And that's fine. That's cool. Okay, this doesn't accurately reflect what's going on. I think most of us would agree. We hope that it doesn't accurately reflect what is going on, because there were things going, I think, all the way back into 2018, things on the Squadron 42 road, on the old roadmap, that seemingly had not been completed. And so we were starting to wonder, are you like more than a year behind, or have you just stopped updating the roadmap? Are you forgetting to update the roadmap? And a lot of us didn't know. And sure, a new roadmap that reflects, more accurately the progress that we're making is a good idea. But what would be even better is that if there was like a human voice and a human face to kind of sit down with us and explain it. And explain it in a way that we can understand, and kind of give us a little bit of insight beyond a couple of sentences of flavor text and a cool image. Something that really talks about the depths of what that thing is, what it represents for the game, what are the challenges, and what are the overall, what are we going to get to take away from that? That's what we really need. I mean, there's a lot of things to complain about. I mean, certainly, delays. Ship sales is a whole other thing that I'm planning to take on later, but the most important thing that CIG needs to give us really is, not a community manager. I'm, not trying to crap on the job that Jared is doing, because he is just that. He's the community manager. He's a go-between. He's not, a top tier person who's going to make those decisions. Oops, forgot my landing gear. Sorry. But, yeah. We do need somebody at the top end who can kind of chill with the community and explain these things to us, because a roadmap is one thing, but having somebody like a Tony Zurvek or a Brian Chambers or a Todd Pappy is what we really need more than a roadmap. Because otherwise people start to get angsty, they start to get dramatic, and they start thinking that they've been deceived. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.